What's up, guys? Welcome to another recap of your SPY. Today's Tuesday, February 16th. Today we're going to go over, some of the price action, some of the price points where we were expecting, a reversal. I just want to start off by, looking at the daily chart. This is the 90-day. Each candle is a separate day, and today is a short week. Today is Tuesday. And in my last video, I was talking about like how in order for us to continue this move higher, we have to start trading above this high right here, the 392.88. 392.88 indicated by this blue line is the high of the day of the previous, it's a high of the previous trading day. And we actually ended up opening above it. We ended up running up to 394.17. This vicinity 394, and then as the day went on, we actually got we ended up closing, kind of on a bearish note. We ended up closing below this. And what this tells me is that as of right now, we're not ready to push into higher numbers until we're really able to clear, the high of this number. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably saying like, hey, that's a lot of lines. And I know I'm actually going to start removing them. So this is going to be the last video, you see them with. But the reason I keep them on is just so that you understand that there's a continuation of kind of like lines from the previous day that we're trading. And so, the big candles here to look at were firstly this one, because this was a number that was, getting a tough time, that the market was having a tough time breaking through before it finally did on this day. And in fact, because you close above this orange line, I said, guys, like we're now okay to, to keep pushing the market up. As long as you close above this market can keep running, right? And so what ended up happening overnight, the futures were green, that opened here, but it got rejected, and look where we ended up closing. We ended up closing right around this same vicinity, the 392.20 area. And so right now we're kind of at a pivot point. If tomorrow the market opens up below this number, you can expect a red day. If it opens up above this number, green day. But there's an even higher chance that it's still going to open up above this number. And the reason that is because a lot of people like to, the market likes to leave that for market hours to determine whether we're going to have a green or a red day, right? So in the case that it does open up, here, and then it runs throughout the day, where are we going to see resistance? Well, we're going to see resistance at the high of this day, at the high of this day, and we're going to go ahead and add a few lines to these candles, and we're going to look at the one minute chart to see where throughout the day you had your pivots. Now, if it opens up below this candle, where's going to be your support? Well, it's going to be all these lines that we have annotated, right? It's going to be all the low of the days, the high of the days, and then this line, which if you extend all the way over here, you realize that it's actually the high of this day. But this was a candle that in yesterday's video, I talked about how it came to do a double top here, and it got rejected before finally broke through. So I said I'm going to add this line here because this might be important for tomorrow. And just to go over today's action, we start off gapping above, like I said, because we're in an uptrend. We're in a bullish move until we break below the blue line that I indicated, which was the close of the previous day, right? Because this was a high. So we came down, and I ended up talking yesterday about like, well, when you're at all-time highs, is there really resistance? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, as in like there's going to be resistance wherever the market decides that there's going to be more buyers, more sellers than buyers. But have we figured out where that point is? No, not really. But since you ended up, opening up very high and you sell off in the morning, this right here is going to be your first resistance point, right? It came back a second time, it head faked, and it got rejected, right? So this tells me that this is resistance, because it started high here, sold off, came here, sold off. Third time, it actually came back and sold off, right? and it sold off. And where did it catch a bounce? It caught a bounce at the blue line at the close of yesterday. This was the high of the previous day. Would you should you take a bounce here? And the answer is most likely yes, because again, we're in an uptrend. You want to buy the dips, and you want to set your risk, right? So it actually did end up bouncing. Where did it end up seeing resistance? It ended up seeing resistance right where it had resistance 3 times prior this morning. At the open, at 6:46, and then 10 minutes later, and from here it sold off. And this time around there wasn't as many buyers here, because the buyers that were supposed to buy at this level had already exhausted their buys here. That's why I reiterate, support and resistance work best always on the first try. Now you can have multiple tries, right? And in fact, the more times something tries, sometimes the less effective it is. But it really all depends on how you get the price reaction. So for example, if you get a run up here and you get a small rejection, and then you get a larger rejection, the third time you're going to get an even larger rejection. And so it's showing you that the resistance is actually stronger every time. Now, if you're to have a small rejection, and then an even smaller rejection, and then a tiny rejection, and then consolidation, that means that this resistance is weakening, right? So this is essentially if if you add a drawing, this is what you call a triangle, but in this case it's kind of reverse, right? So you're making lower lows, right? So you got your bounce here, and it traded around the line. And again, it wasn't support, it wasn't strong support or resistance. But where did it catch the next bounce? Well, it caught it here at this orange line, right? And this orange line was the high of the 3 trading days prior, that I said like we have to break to go into higher highs, right? So again, on the first bounce, acted as support, right? Where'd you get your resistance? At this channel level, right? From here, on the first try, again, it should have been resistance, and it was. And now the second time on this orange line, it wasn't going to be as strong support, right? And that's why you got more of this dip. It looks like some buyers who were making this pattern were probably trying to look like around here. They might have front run the price a couple, a couple quarters or something. And so you get the consolidation around the number, and then eventually you get the eventual failure. And again, you got another bounce on this red line, right? And this, again, this was a red line that I said, hey, we got to keep an eye out, because yesterday it had trouble passing this red line, right? And again, like I said, on the first touch, it should be support, right? If it was to come back down and test a second time, it probably wouldn't be as strong of support, right? So you ran up. This should have been resistance, but it actually broke through, right? So you kind of got to take that out of the table. So if you're going short here, you have to know what your stop loss is, and you want to get out. If you're going to lose, you want to lose, quick, fast, and small, right? So in this case, it broke through. It looks like it was going to go up, did a small pullback to test back, and this is actually what you call a retest, and this is a retest of support. And if this was to hold, this is actually your signal that you do have a price reversal. And so this support did end up holding on the first try, and so you go up, and on the first touch of this blue line, rejection, right? Second try, stronger rejection. Third try, you didn't get a rejection, you actually got a head fake out. And so this kind of takes away, like I said, it takes away the strength of it being resistance. But the fact that it's consolidating here, it's kind of showing you that the market is it's undecisive about where it wants to go next. And so what I ended up doing was, it actually didn't end up breaking through, ended up falling, trading, and it pretty much just traded sideways until it decided to end up closing, above here. Before the last minute, there was a lot of buyers here that actually ended up pushing the candle from this orange line up about 10 cents. So essentially, it ended up closing above around this pivot point. And this pivot point, if we were to go back on our daily graph, was the pivot point that I was talking about, how this has to be the number that the market clears in order to keep running up, right? And it took about 3 days. It took about 2 days for the market to really break through, before finally broke through with force. And so that's just something to keep an eye out going into tomorrow. And so as of right now, the game plan for tomorrow is see where it gaps. If it's below this orange line, you're most likely looking at a red day. If it's above this orange line, you have to break above this high of day in order to keep the market running. And something that might happen tomorrow is you might have what's called an inside day, where tomorrow it's going to run in between the range of this low and this high. And so that's just kind of like a big signal of indecision. But it really is all going to depend on whether this line is given up, the 391.50, or the 394 and change, right? So we'll keep an eye on it, but you start to take notice that this market runs a lot on pivot points and certain numbers, that where people love to buy. And when you want to do like a quick scalp, you want to take the trades at these levels, and you always want to do it at the first setup, because every subsequent setup after that is not as strong. And remember, you're not always going to be right, but if you're right, good, make your money. And if you're wrong, then just get out, and cut your losses quickly, and save that money for another trade. There's always going to be another setup. This sometimes, this might not have been the line, and they would have kept running, and we would have looked to buy here. It's really about knowing how to manage your risk, and knowing how to either win small, win big, or lose small, because you never want to lose big. So that's going to be the end of it for today. I'll give you guys a review for tomorrow, and if you have any questions, just drop a comment down below. Thank you.